One of the tools that they use against us, they've used it against me rather recently, and that is that we who believe in liberty, we don't care about people. You know, we have no compassion. But let me tell you how strongly I feel about that issue. I am convinced, well, you know, if we live in a free society and you want to direct all your energies to yourself and you say, I'm going to take care of myself, I'll take care of my kids, I don't want to deal with anybody else, and you think, well, that guy's selfish and only worrying about himself, he's probably not doing any great harm to anybody. He would be a blessing because he would never be a burden to the neighbor through a socialist system. But I think of it a little broader. I think compassion is good. But I think freedom is compassionate. I think if you really care about poor people, if you care about jobs, you want freedom. You don't want more government. I think the best example to use for that is all the compassion that we had and all the programs, the inflated money so that there'd be easy credit and everybody could have a house and everybody gets easy credit, no down payments. The price of the house is going to go up. You can borrow more money, perpetual prosperity. Then we have a government program, the Community Reinvestment Act, which tells the lenders that they must make loans to even the risky people who don't have good credit. So that was designed to make sure a lot of houses would get into the hands of the people, as many as possible, because that's being compassionate. But what happened? Who made all the money? The builders and the developers, the real estate agents, the speculators, the banks, and the mortgage dealers, and they made a ton. Then they got into the derivatives market, and finally the bubble got so big it burst. They got bailed out, and what happened to the people that were supposed to be helped with all this compassion? They lost their jobs and they lost their houses. So I say that is not a compassionate system. We need to be able to defend our views as being the compassionate system. But they would like to paint it and say that we don't care. Same health system is the same way. You know, if you didn't have government health care, then you're not compassionate at all. Like nobody would ever be taken care of unless there's a government system. But the government, I mean, if you think of the extreme of a society that provides free health care for everybody from cradle to grave, total socialism, you know, they don't get exactly the best health care in the world. And sometimes they wait in lines. And what's moving along with this Obamacare is they're already packed into the rationing of care. So yes, they're so compassionate that they're going to have to ration and make the decision that at the federal level, some bureaucrat's going to make a decision who should have surgery and what surgery they should have and who gets to use the dialysis machine. So that is not compassionate in any way. But if you look to a continent like Africa, you know, they have all these compassionate programs, and yet people die all the time from lack of medical care. But we have lost faith and confidence. I think many people in America, even though they might not be even welfarists or socialists, they would say, well, medicine's okay because, you know, how are we going to take care of people? Well, under the Constitution, local governments are allowed to do that. But this whole idea that a free market system and a prosperous society wouldn't take care of the maximum number of people, yes, there probably still would be a problem. But right now, if we continue to go in this direction, just as in education, we took over education, so everybody had a bad education. Now we're going to take over medicine, and we're going to make sure everybody has bad medical care. And who's going to benefit under these conditions? Whether it's Republican or Democrat, guess who gets to wield the power? The lobbyists. I mean, it didn't change with Obama. He's not a socialist in that sense. He's closer to being a fascist. You know, he's taking care of the insurance companies and the drug companies and the other companies. So yes, there are some people who benefit, but we shouldn't give up so easily that if there's a scarce resource, it's best distributed in the free market. But the government's been in the way of alternative health care for so long, and they're bearing down on us today. People who want to make choices. I mean, I've practiced medicine a long time in a conventional way, but I have a lot of respect, and I look very carefully at alternative health care, nutritional products. But who's... But who's behind this? It's the drug companies that want to make it illegal, and they arrest people for selling vitamins. They arrest people for selling raw milk. You know, it's pretty bad. So, yes, freedom of choice is great, far from perfect, but when you lose freedom of choice, then you have choice by special interests and government bureaucrats, and I'll tell you what, I'll always vote for and struggle to have you make your own choices and make your own decisions for your own life. I've often said, and I truly believe, that freedom brings people together, and if we truly understand it, because it is a system of tolerance, and it is not a system of endorsement of how one uses freedom. But freedom will bring us together. There's no reason in the world why we can't reach out and bring others together. Obviously, even in our campaign today, we do bring in a lot of people who call themselves progressive, and they don't like war any more than we do, and they like civil liberties as much as we do. And I think this is a wonderful philosophy, because it isn't the opposite. The opposite of bringing people together this way is sort of called the so-called moderate. Everybody wants to be a moderate. That sounds good. If you're a moderate, then you're not unreasonable. So a moderate, though, is very dangerous, because it sounds like it's so seductive that they're doing the right thing by being not argumentative. But what do? They give up half of their beliefs. The liberal becomes a moderate by endorsing militarism, and the Republican becomes moderate by endorsing welfarism. So no, this is different. This is working with groups of people, people who believe in civil liberties, but believe in a non-interventionist foreign policy, and obviously we have to believe in the marketplace. And the big problem we have with some who come our way is they might agree with us on the civil liberties, but they have a little struggle on understanding that civil liberties means property rights too. And yes, if you have a right to your life and you have a right to work, and the extension of your life, it's your blood and sweat, is what you earn. So it would be up to you to be able to keep that. This whole idea of the income tax is such a threat to us, I think, philosophically, because it's based on the assumption that everything you earn belongs to the government, and you get to keep a certain percentage under permission of the government, and that's why I don't think we should have an income tax at all. Thank you. Okay, now I want you to stay standing for a minute, because I think we should treat the Federal Reserve exactly the same way. Good, we took care of those two problems rather quickly. I guess that'll take us about 30 days after we win the White House, right? But let me close a little bit on a personal note on what I think a free society is all about. I think the purpose in my personal life, and hopefully in others, is our goal ought to be to strive for virtue and excellence. And if we do that, we do become compassionate, we understand free markets, we're willing to help those who really will end up needing help. But taking care of ourselves is important. Our family, friends, neighbors, and our churches and our community would solve a lot of our problems. But seeking virtue and excellence, I think, is where the real sense of reward comes from. Yes, you can be successful and you can make a lot of money. Then you have to worry about when the government's going to take it from you. So you worry about that. But no, in a socialist dictatorship, an authoritarian government, you're barely surviving, so you don't have the luxury of thinking about creative energy. And that's what freedom releases. There weren't a lot of unique inventions in the Soviet system. Yeah, they might have done something with nuclear bombs and a few other things, but no, the creative energy comes even more from a free society. And if the goal of liberty is to release this and for us to be more prosperous and more confident and feeling good about ourselves, the opposite occurs when we turn those responsibilities over to the government. When the government takes up the job of making us more moral or economically more fair and redistribute wealth, and we have this pseudo-idealism that we're going to make everybody perfect, and then we extend this to the world because we are the exceptional nation, and therefore we will tell others how to live, and if you don't do it, we're going to bomb you until you do it, But when governments take upon themselves this role that should be our personal responsibility by being free individuals and being responsible for everything that we do, when the government does it, they can't do it unless they undermine your liberty. And the government's supposed to be there to protect our liberty. But once they assume this role, all odds are off. And that is what has happened to us for the last 100 years. It keeps drifting and drifting. But the last few years, something big is going on. There is a transition. The country is waking up. You're part of it. I want to thank you. And let's keep fighting on. Thank you very much. Thank you.